All of my ideas and my action items that I presented on my website for initiatives and on my Facebook page are all simple. They're easy to implement, and they'll be extremely cost effective, so I can actually show you some deliverables. I'm not about to sit up here and promise everybody the world. I'm going to promise you that things that I have said that I can do on there, I can actually get achieved for you so you can see something, because I know we're all tired of not seeing anything get done in our communities. And that's an important thing that we need to work on. I can definitely work with other people on city council. I love other people on city council. I go to different offices all the time and talk to them. There are some people that are very responsive to me. I love them all. And it's not everybody in there that's bad. Not everybody is bad. They just don't have the wherewithal to push things forward. And I have that. And I have no issue working on moving forward. I'm not going to be promoting stuff to be the same as it's been, because we need new action taken.
Mr. Williams, how would you work with the neighborhood associations, like co-sponsors of this forum, business associations, in your role as a city council member?
One of my big proposals is that at least once a month, every city council person comes out to their various district and holds an open forum where different people can come and speak. I'd like there to be one for the public in general, and I'd like there to be one for associations in general, so everybody can bring up their issues that they're having in their neighborhood and what they'd like to see addressed. When I am elected, I'll be very open. I'm already very responsive. A lot of people have reached out to me and know that I will respond. Message me, shoot me a text, call me, email me, shoot me a smoke signal. I will respond, and I will be out in the community more than you have ever seen any of your other representatives ever. Fact.
Mr. White.
Hi, I know who you are. You know who I am. I've been to your meetings. When you have had problems, some of you have even reached out to me and asked me, hey, how can we fight something, or how can we get something, or what's the process to do something? I intend to attend or send a representative to every single neighborhood association meeting and all the meetings that are happening in the Southwest that are that might be citywide. It's incredibly important that the public sees their elected officials, knows who they are, can ask them questions, and I have been trying to work with you, to work with businesses, to work with other groups, and sometimes you may think I'm on the wrong side, but that's because I'm representing some segment that may not necessarily be you. But I am very willing to come out, even if I lose, and help you with what you need to do.
Thank the candidates. The questions from the sponsoring organizations have been completed. People in the audience who would like to ask questions, if you would write them, there are people from the league that will collect them and give them to me. I also have some other questions that I'm going to start with. And Mr. White, I believe I start with you. Thank you. If the proposed referendum on Police Accountability Board is on the ballot, would you support it, and would you please explain your response?
I have worked to get that on the ballot. I worked to write it. It comes from a report that was written about the present accountability that we have with PSS and the Civilian Review Board, and I'm credited in that as a contributor. I've been involved with this issue for about 20 years. I encourage all of you to vote for it, and the strongest reasons I can give on why that is just recently it came out that the police have been not providing police reports to people from domestic violence. They're supposed to, but this is a problem of supervision. The officers are either being told not to do it, which is incorrect, or they're acting incorrectly out of policy, and someone needs to be there to hold them accountable. And the present way the police do that is the PSS, and you know, they found 2% of all complaints to be valid, and they couldn't figure out 49% of all complaints. So, you know, they aren't very good at their job. We have a lot of problems with our police, and if you don't think so, last year we paid out $1.7 million to settle them. I will vote for it. I encourage you to vote for it. This is and I encourage you, if you are interested, to ask to be on the board, because we need interested people who are going to help provide accountability and supervision to our police department.
Mr. Wade?
Yes, I would vote for it. I believe that it's a step in the right direction. I don't believe that it's a large enough step. I do believe it should be accompanied by legislation to strengthen it. Basic legislation like if somebody's already been restrained and unable to resist anymore and they're continued to be beat on, that will be considered excessive force, and it'll be considered whatever. You know, that's one law that can be put on the books that can actually be used to help give it some more teeth so stuff can get done, because the whole idea is that the police do not actually respond to the criminal justice system the way that we interact with them, so they're kind of above the law. They've actually passed similar legislation to what I'm suggesting already in California. Thank you, Governor Newsom, I want to say. But yeah, so it is a real thing. It can be done. And I'm not here to tell you how to vote on that. That's up to you as an independent voter. But I think it's a good idea. If you don't, then that's definitely up to you at the polls. All right, you guys, thank you.
Mr. White, would you like to respond?
The laws are written by the states. That's mostly a state issue. The policies are written locally. And the incident that Marcus described is actually against city policy for the police department. And if they do that, in fact, there have been several lawsuits that have been settled with money being given to the victim as a result of that. It's already wrong, and what we need to do is have better ways to enforce it. The reason I fought so hard for body cameras is because the evidence the body camera provides has helped many people get justice in a situation of police abuse. And just like the body cameras, I will continue to fight for ways in that we can provide better policing and safer neighborhoods to everyone.
Can I get 30 seconds on that?
We just have a response, Mr. Williams. And I am going to start the next question with you. What are your ideas for parcel F?
I'm sorry.
Parcel 5.
Parcel S, I wonder what, I know what that is. Story I'll tell after the form. Parcel 5.
My ideas for me are personal and probably not what everybody else would like to see. I'm sure everybody would like to see something different. Some people would like to see a green space. I think that's a great idea. Some people would like to see open air theater space put out there. I think that's a good idea. There are many good ideas, but I think that at this point maybe should be left open to a poll. Personally, if it was up to me, I'd say that we need a supermarket downtown, because we don't have, you've got great access to the bus line, but there's no supermarket downtown. It's already difficult enough for people on the bus line to get out to different places where they can get healthy access to food and stuff like that. We need a supermarket. But I would love a green space or something else. I believe that should be left up to the people, but if it did come down to me, 100% an affordable supermarket chain. Or a local group grocer.
Mr. Wood.
I would love to see a 14-story commercial building filled with businesses that employ people at high wages and it pays full taxes. But I happen to live in Rochester, and that's not going to happen. I like Marcus's idea of a grocery store, although the old Greyhound bus station area would be probably better, being a little closer to the bus station. and so therefore less walking for people. I would like to see it be used as it's presently being used as a festival spot. I'd like to see it developed for that, and I do not want to see it designated as a park because that locks it in park status for all time. And if an economic miracle happens here, I still would like to see large companies come in there paying people high wages.
Mr. White, what would you do to prevent young families with children from leaving the city?
I'm sorry, the first thing that came to my mind was a fence or a wall, but we're not going to go there. The biggest thing that we need to do to keep residents in the city with children is improve the schools. And we seem to be heading in the right direction on that. It also would help to lower housing costs, lower utility costs. And one of the big things that you see in municipalities that have their own municipal electric is you see that there isn't vacancies like that. People aren't moving out. And because the rates tend to be low, the service tends to be better. And I've been a proponent of municipal utilities since, since it failed in the 70s. And I would like to see, because now is an opportunity that the contracts for the public energy comes available in 2024. I would love to see us form a municipal utility to get on the low-priced electricity from the Niagara Mohawk plant, and would lower the prices to half what we're currently paying for delivered electricity, and could very well be an engine that will help keep people here because of the lower costs that Rochester has.
Activities for youth. A lot of youth programs have been closed over the years. Different centers have been done away with or moved or commoditized. It's something that really needs to be paid more attention to. There aren't a lot of after-school activities anymore. There aren't a lot of different things that children can do. Childcare is a big thing for everybody. I believe that we should form a childcare network so that parents can actually work second and third shifts if they need to. And it's difficult to find an employer that will tell you that they haven't ever had an issue with somebody with childcare. That's a big thing. Also, as Alec mentioned, municipal energy would be great, but we also need municipal broadband as well. That's something that we definitely need to look into. And there's a lot of different resources in dark fiber underneath our feet, thank you to the county, that we can actually get access to that will help improve that. Thank you.
Mr. Williams, would you promote this, would you
Promote the city investing in job training for crafts, work on our historical houses and buildings with which the city is rich, to provide a self-sustaining income and skills for our city residents?
100%. That's one of the things that I've proposed as far as alternative education initiatives, different internships, different programs like that that'll teach crafts and trades, because we need those. That's something that's not going to go away quickly like we have call centers and stuff like that. That's going to be taken over by machines really quick, but actual trades and crafts are something that we have that we can actually build an economy with. We have enough people here that already are skilled in these trades that we can use them as a resource to help teach the youth. And the youth can help rebuild our communities from within. And if you're working on rebuilding your community, it gives you a sense of pride, and it's more likely that you're going to purchase a house in your community and stay in your community. So that'll also go back to the other question, how do we keep parents and youth in the city?
I've already been doing this. Oasis is a school that provides career training to adults who don't have a high school diploma. That program was going to close in 2015. It was on the road to closing in 2015 due to cuts to its budget from the school district. And I spearheaded a group to save that, to get more money, and that program is now back growing. Last year, 470 people who started without a high school diploma had careers at the end. I also, win or lose, am going to be working with Jose Pio to form a co-op business around young people, not necessarily teens, but young people who have some training or have gone through the OASIS training or the school training for trades, to rehab houses that are available, that we can get from the foreclosed auction for the purpose of turning them into single-family livable properties for homeowners.
Mr. White?
What are your thoughts on decommissioning the Broad Street Bridge and creating green space?
You know, the Broad Street Bridge is such a fantastic structure, and it has a space underneath that could be used already as a recreation area and a walking thoroughfare, and with a little bit of enclosure, could be used year-round rather than just part of the year. It's the old Erie Canal channel that runs underneath. There have been plans to fix that up over the years, but they always fall on deaf ears on the city. I think that it's time that we looked at these. That area can go from the hotels to the War Memorial to the city office building to the county office building to the convention center, all being connected along that way. We can make it into a featured area and feature the graffiti artists who are currently working down there, allowing canvases that can change to make an ever-changing tourist attraction. We can make this an attractive place without having to lose the Broad Street Bridge deck, which, you know, seems like an expensive boondoggle.
I'm so sick of them getting rid of the roadways in Rochester, it doesn't make any sense. And I know some of you guys here are all for it and going home, but to me, honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I speak to a lot of people in our communities, and they're still not even sure why they filled in the interloop. You know, the congestion downtown on the roadways and stuff, people say it's not bad, but it is if you live in Rochester. It's far worse than it's been. And I just don't understand why they ever filled in the subways. That never made any sense. We filled in all of that space, like the Erie Canal that's underneath there right now. That's accessible space that we can use. Like, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the underground project in Atlanta. Like, that down there is something that we can do down there, fill it with shops and stuff like that, as well as, like, or maybe we could do something with underneath it, like, what do you call it, the low line in Brooklyn? Something like that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but look it up if you are. Yeah, so that would be my solution to the green space issue.
Very briefly, the section of the interloop that was filled in, it would have been more expensive to maintain and save and make safe than it was to fill it in. If you remember the East Avenue Bridge, it was being held up by cross timbers at both ends, and they were afraid that the crumbling masonry behind the timbers might give way and topple the timbers. This was in very bad condition because we had done a poor job of maintenance, and something needed to be done, and this was unfortunately the cheapest solution.
It was a stupid solution.
Mr. Williams, how would you address the issue of
Trust between residents and the administration when residents seem to believe that developers have an inordinate amount of power over what can be built in our neighborhoods and downtown?
Maybe we should look at revamping the whole system as far as it goes for approvals. You know, city council actually approves all of the large construction projects. Maybe we should look at a different way to giving the people more voice in that. I'm not exactly sure how we would go about that, but there must be something that we can do to make people feel like they're listened to and they're heard from and they had an actual input into what's going on. Now, I'm not exactly sure how to implement this, but I'd be more than happy to come out and ask people for their input on this topic so we can come up to a solution together. Plus, I don't think that developers should be able to donate to all of these campaigns and stuff and then go and build stuff within the city with city funding and tax breaks and subsidies like that. That's also a large part of the issue. That's why they get built what they want built. That's it. I want your input. I can't give all of the answers, like I said, but I definitely want to hear from you guys and what your solutions would be for that, because there are many different ways we can go about doing that.
I don't know how many people here remember when they wanted to put a hotel down in Charlotte. I worked with the residents down there to come up with a plan that defeated the developer and canceled that project. I worked with people who had concerns about Brooks Landing. I'm working with people at Bull's Head. I worked with people about Colgate Divinity School and the Capsule Park. This is an issue that I'm very active on, and if you don't know, I believe the developers control the city. The answer is to require there to be a veto or approval from neighborhoods before this is done, before they can do anything, to have the planning and zoning board be responsible to the people who show up there and they vote in some way representative to the people who have shown up and at least consider the concerns. Okay, I'm going to stop. I've got so much on my webpage about this. This is the issue. I want to empower you, and I have specific plans to do it.
Mr. White, does the city council have any control over improving oversight of landlords who don't maintain their property and there can be health and safety violations?
Oh yeah. Do they use it? No. The whole inspection process, the way it's written, allows them to go into these properties every 3 years to find the problems. It seldom is used correctly, and very seldom, and most frequently, the bigger the project, the least likely the inspectors are to find something. There is a project down at Charlotte which received its certificate of occupancy only to have the roof fall in 2 days later. Clearly, it was not in good shape when it was inspected, but boy did it get its clean bill of health. The same thing can be said for what happened on Thurston Road at the building owned by the Hungerfords. This is the city is not using its inspectors correctly. They don't, and one of the reasons is the residents don't have protection against retaliation. We need retaliation protection, and we need to shift our inspection system to being complaint-driven, so that when you complain, an inspector will come out and will write up the problems. And I also feel that if the problems are not fixed in a reasonable time, the city should be contacting contractors and having them come in and fix it and charging the developer for whatever they feel the cost for that must have been. And I think this would help correct the problem.
A large issue that's overlooked is not just residential, but commercial. Being a commercial landlord, and if you're a commercial tenant, you have basically no rights afforded to residential tenants. So I have a building that one of my businesses rents out right now. The ceiling is like 5 seconds from collapsing. We can get nothing done. And if we complain and they come in and they do something, the best thing that they'll do is shut my business down. That's the wrong move. We need something done differently. And as far as residential goes, I hear a lot from landlords that a lot of the people are kind of out for themselves as far as the inspectors go. And I know a few inspectors, and they're pretty good people, but some of them are kind of out for themselves and not looking out for the community members. So a lot of these complaints don't get filed properly, and they don't get dealt with properly. The city needs to really clean house and reassess the way that they actually implement what they're supposed to be doing, because the policies are not being enacted. Period. That's it. That's what's going on.
Mr. Williams, what do you do personally, and what have you done in the community to make Rochester a more livable city and the planet more hospitable for future generations? What is the city doing in that regard, and what avenues would you seek for improvement from the city?
That's a long question for a short time to answer. Okay, personally, I pick up garbage frequently in my neighborhood. I'm out there all the time. I pick up tires. Last year, I actually cut my hand wide open. I had to get stitches because I was picking up tires and it went into my hand. It ripped through my gloves that I was using. Garbage is a big issue in my neighborhood. I'd like to see the littering laws that we have updated and changed because it's ridiculous to be cleaning up so much garbage. People should actually be ticketed and put on mandatory cleanup service because of what they're doing. Like if you go out to Greece or Gates or wherever, you automatically see the fines. $500 if you toss a piece of tissue out the window, and they'll get you too. But here we need them to be dinged and used as cleanup crews for the garbage that they're putting all over our neighborhoods. As far as the city goes and sustainability goes, I'd like to see more work done as far as greenhouses go. Advanced greenhouse projects on the vacant lots that we have so that we can feed the people in our community, and we can use aeroculture and aquaculture to provide higher yield green produce and actual fish as well. And that's something that we can do at a nominal cost that'll be able to also produce revenue for the city while providing the citizens in the areas with low-cost foodstuffs. And that's just one of many sustainability things. Check out my website, marcusforrochester.com.
I'm going to treat this as a two-part question. Part one, what have I done out in the community? And boy, the list is extensive. At the beginning, they mentioned some of the things, body cameras, LED lights in the street lights, recycling co-op. I've worked on the bicycle plans. I've worked on increasing recycling. If you remember, it used to be only plastic one. And I had been, according to Maggie Brooks, instrumental in expanding that. As far as the environment, and those are, a couple of some of the environmental things that I've worked on. I also worked hard, collected signatures about fracking and a moratorium on fracking here in the city. I have a proposal for, because there is a section of Lake Ontario up at Durand Eastman Park in which we could theoretically place windmills, and I have been pushing for that, and my time is up, and I have so much more to say.
So we'll let you speak on this one, Mr. Lee. How can residents have more say about whether the city calls them Central City, Southwest Quad, Southeast Quad? Our neighborhoods are being split up.
The answer to that is vote for Alex White. At the moment, you have no say on this, and the fights that have happened in the Emma neighborhood, in which the city continues to insist it's Emma, and the residents want to be Ace. I went through this on Monroe Avenue with the Merchants Association there, which actually ended up kicking all of its merchants out, and keeping only one merchant remained in the association at the end of that, after there had been 44 members. The city is not really interested in whether it's representative or not. They're interested in whether they have people that they can rely on to say, yes, I support, or I'll do what you want. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for approval. I feel we're doing this all backwards. Bill Johnson's idea that the city should be helping the neighborhoods has been turned on its head under Bob Duffy and more recently under Mayor Warren, and they feel that the neighborhood should be serving the city's will. And it's about time we turn that back around. We put the neighbors back in charge. The zoning is just one of the issues, but I feel there should be community budgeting. There should be neighborhood councils that have say over things. Zoning should be completely handled by neighborhoods, and I think the neighborhoods should define themselves the way they want to, and multiple neighborhoods should get together in various areas to form these councils who will have more power and bigger say.
I have absolutely no clue. and that's an honest thing, because even in the neighborhood that I live, one side of the street wants to call themselves something else and the other side wants to call them something else. How do we draw these neighborhood lines? I don't know, and that's a big thing. I've seen community organizations try to start up and go against other ones that are already existing because they want to call it something different, and the people over here want to call it something different, and one area has 3 names and the city wants to name it something completely different. To be honest, I'm not sure where we go from here. It's very difficult because everybody wants something different. Everybody wants to be heard. And that is something that I cannot just say, oh, I have the lightning bolt solution on, because it wouldn't be true. And nobody really would be able to do that for you. But what I would like to see is I would like to see areas vote on what they would like to be called. So that way they can have more of an option in what the areas or quadrants are called.
There are 2 more questions. I just want to be sure that there's no one in the audience with a card that we haven't collected or has another question. Beyond the required annual payment, how should the city support the city school district and the children of Rochester?
Is that 2 different questions?
Let's make it 2 different questions. How's that?
All right. The city school district is trash. Fact. I came up in the city school district. I went to all public schools. I graduated from Wilson Magnet, and it's definitely needs to be completely revamped. As I mentioned earlier, after school programs have been cut. There's not enough advanced tutelage where it's needed. There's not enough special education tutelage where it's needed. As far as the city goes, supporting, I'm trying to answer both questions. As far as the city goes as supporting the youth and the children, the city needs to put forth more alternative education options and more after-school activities that will encourage the kids to participate in civics and in their community activities, like cleanups, like educational-based things that are related to their actual neighborhood which they're in, and other resources that they can do for the schools. It's tough when it comes from to the city interacting with the schools, but I would say that it would boil down to how they can get the city school children involved in stuff like financial literacy and participation in government so that they can be active members of our community and be good residents of our neighborhoods. I hope I answered that sufficiently.
Treat this as 2 questions in 1.
Sure, we can do it either way, Mr. White.
I'm going to do it too.
I'm going to answer the first part of this, is question 1. And the city can do a lot to help the school district. The city has